This is another video about the basics of geometry. So before we get started sorting and classifying different shapes or polygons, let's talk about the different lines that you need to notice first.
The first set of lines to talk about are called parallel lines. And I know that word can be tricky, so try that a few times. Parallel. Right here in the pink, I have examples of parallel lines. They are a set of lines that do not ever cross paths. So I think about a street, and when you look across the street, those lines are parallel. When I think of a door frame, I think, oh, those are parallel lines on my door frame. These are examples in the red of lines that are not parallel. They cross paths, or eventually, if they continue on, they are going to meet at some point. So parallel lines are directly across from each other. Okay, the next set of lines is called perpendicular. Perpendicular. It's a little tricky, I know, but all it means is at 90 degrees. So these perpendicular lines that are in the pink all make a 90-degree angle somewhere. They make a right angle somewhere. These in the red are examples of lines that are not perpendicular. They do not make any sort of right angle or 90-degree angle. So the word, again, perpendicular.
I'm not sure why this is my go-to rude face, but it is. So, did you try and say those words? Did you try and say parallel and then perpendicular? Try to say them and then go make some of those lines. Make some parallel lines. Make some perpendicular lines. You can only get it if you practice. So go practice.
Okay, so now that we have talked about some of the different lines in geometry, this will help us be able to sort some quadrilaterals. So there's another tricky word, quadrilateral. Try and say that one now. All right, so this cow has nothing to do with anything, but I thought it was funny. So let's talk about some quadrilaterals. Here are some basics. Here is the word quadrilateral. Try and say it a few times, quadrilateral. And we've got your first shape, which is a square, then a rectangle, a rhombus, and a parallelogram, and a trapezoid. Try and say some of those words that are tricky. Before we actually dive into the shapes, I wanted to let you know how I kind of laid out this next little section. I'll be talking about this shape, and then I will type out the rules for that shape. There will be a picture of it, as well as what else it can be classified as. So you will see that now.
Let's start with trapezoids. So trapezoids have 4 sides and exactly one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. Just one pair of those lines are parallel. That's what makes it a trapezoid. Now some facts about squares. So many people say things like, oh, you're so square, which means, oh, you're boring. But squares are anything but boring. They can be classified as a lot of different shapes. So the rules to be a square are that you have to have 4 sides, 2 pairs of opposite sides are parallel, you have to have 4 right angles, and 4 equal sides. So, squares can also be rectangles, squares can be parallelograms, and squares can also be called a rhombus. So squares are anything but square.
Hi there, the next shape is perfect for me. It's a rectangle. So rectangles need to have 4 sides with 4 right angles. The opposite sides need to be equal in length, which is very similar to the description of a square. But a square has to have all four sides being equal. Mine can be, but they don't have to be. It's much like the shape that I am as a ruler. My left side and my right side are the same lengths, and my top and my bottom are both the same length. The next shape is a parallelogram. So parallelograms just need to have four sides, and their opposite sides are both parallel lines. So a square can be a parallelogram, a rectangle can be a parallelogram, and a rhombus can be a parallelogram too.
Parallelogram, yes.
This last beautiful shape is called a rhombus. A rhombus needs to have four equal sides, and the opposite sides are parallel to each other. So they can always be classified as a parallelogram, but they can sometimes be classified as squares as well. So in this geometry world, just remember the basic characteristics of each shape, the rules that fit with that shape. So for a square, you need four equal sides, you need four right angles, like the picture here. If I'm trying to classify rhombus and see if it fits in with that square category, this drawing does not, because it does not have four right angles. If I tilted the square on its side, if I tilted this exact picture on its side, it would be labeled as a rhombus and as a square. So just pay attention to the rules that we talked about, and you will do a wonderful job. I know geometry can get a little bit confusing when you're talking about how different shapes can actually be classified as another shape. So my advice to you is to slow down, take it one shape at a time, and learn those rules, and that will help you when you are sorting and classifying shapes. Thank you for watching.